Nice to be with you all. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. So from what I understand, you guys are in a 2-part series, and it started last week. Does anyone remember the topic that you guys had last week?
What was it? Last week? I wasn't here.
Alright, that's a good reason. So, no one remembers?
And the people that were here aren't here today.
Okay, so, alright, cool. Everyone's new. So it was on pride, and then today we're going to speak about honour. Well, the topic is spiritual honour. So just a thought, we'll start with sort of the dictionary type definition of what honour actually is. And it's basically being held in high respect. Like if someone sees you and then they honour you, they give you reverence, they say, you know, this is a really good guy, or this is a top girl. That's a very basic working definition of what honour is. Is it a bad thing? Do you think it's a bad thing at all?
No.
It's not a bad thing.
No.
It's true. This is the straight answer, of course, is no. So the Lord Jesus, he said this in the Gospel of John. He said, if anyone serves me, let him follow me, and where I am, there my servant will be also. If anyone serves me, him my Father will honour. And so whatever is given by God is not a bad thing. Like we can have things that are given to us by God and we can maybe make them bad depending on the context of what we use them in. But honour in and of itself is a wonderful thing. There was no definition of what the topic was tonight in the dictionary, so you'll never find a definition of spiritual honour. So this is one that's made up, but I just want to see if you guys agree with it. Would you guys agree with this is what spiritual honour is? Spiritual honour is honour, but when it is given by God himself. You can feel free to disagree because I just made it up.
Can you define spiritual honor?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the byproduct of it, but what is spiritual honor?
Yeah. I think the way that I understood it, the topic I was given was spiritual honour, and the way that I understood it to be is that when honour is given by God, or it could be an honour that is naturally with the person because of the way they live their life. There is a certain reverence. I don't know if you guys have ever done that before. You sort of just see someone, or you're in the presence of somebody, and you just feel like there's an aura there. Like you can feel different when you're sitting next to maybe different people, if that makes sense. But the way I understand it is that spiritual honor is the one that's given by God. Sorry, did you have a question?
I was just going to say, with that presence that you're talking about, like I've felt that before. I think that's because when someone holds Christ's presence within them, it's like you're not honoring the person, but you're honoring Christ who is within them. And that sort of comes back to the verse that you used before.
Yeah, that he who serves me, him my Father will honor. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's perfect. You know, it even gets to the point where people may even have a fear of holy people. So, if you remember this part in the Gospel, Herod has someone dance before him, and then he goes, like he was pleased, so he said, I'll give you whatever you want, up to half my kingdom. She goes and she asks her mum, what do you want? Or what should I ask for? And then she goes, I want St. John, I want John's head on a platter, that's what I want. And so he does. He doesn't want to, but because of the oath and because he said it in front of the people, he gives her the head of St. John. There comes a time later in the Gospel where Herod actually fears that John has come back from the dead because of what he's done. He's scared of him. And he used to listen to St. John. Like even though St. John has no worldly power, so to speak, there was this reverence, this awe, this fear even of St. John because of how he held the Lord within him. Like if you think about this topic a bit in depth, it's really weird because we're saying that God honors people or that God praises people. Whereas it should only be the other way around. Like when we think of honouring someone or praising someone, it makes sense if I'm going to honour God and praise God. But it really is, I really found it like, wow, that God himself would praise someone and God himself would honour somebody. And I think the more you think about it, that the creator of everything, the Lord of the universe, would look at someone and praise them. Like, my son, I'm proud of, my daughter, I'm proud of you. And he honours them. But this is who God is. God is, he's humble. So what we're going to read is just a passage from the book of Psalms. And I want you to try to keep this question in mind and see if you have an answer for this question from what we read in the book of Psalms. Why is it such a big deal that God honours people? Why is it such a big deal that God honours people? So this is not the whole psalm, but it's parts of it. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know my sitting down and my rising up. You understand my thought afar off. You comprehend my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. For there is not a word on my tongue, but behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. Where can I go from your spirit, or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. How precious also are your thoughts to me, O God. How great is the sum of them. If I should count them, they would be more in number than the sand. When I awake, I am still with you. David says that, Lord, you've searched me and you know me. You know my sitting down and my rising up. Like the Lord knows when we've sat down in this youth meeting, he knows when we get up. He understands our thought afar off. And he's acquainted with all of our ways. Not just some of our ways. He's acquainted with all of our ways. When we don't even say a word, there is not a word on my tongue, but behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. Before I even say something, God knows it. The second part is basically saying we cannot escape from God. Where can I flee from your presence? God is everywhere. I can't escape you, God. You're everywhere and you know me inside and out. How precious also are your thoughts to me, O God. How great is the sum of them. If I should count them, they would be more in number than the sand. God thinks of you more than the number of sand. And so the question is this: why is it such a big deal that God honors people based on this verse? Well, based on that psalm, because it's very different. The praise of men, or the honor of men, is completely different to when God honors somebody. And the reason is within this psalm. No wrong answers, you can have a guess.
I think it's because God acknowledges that we're sinners, but in amongst all of that, he knows the position of the heart of man. Whereas sometimes we can get honour from other people who think we're good, but only if they knew the truth.
Yeah.
And they miss that one part because we only show our sunny side up.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the whole point of this psalm is that it shows us that God knows us inside and out completely. And so when God gives you a compliment, you know it's legit. Like it is 100% for real that he's complimenting you. But yeah, like it was said, man can see outside things and they may praise you on that. But they don't know everything in here. But God, he will look at someone and he knows what happens in here. He knows what happens in here and he can see the outside. And then he honors, and then he praises, and then he gives a compliment to a person. So you know, whenever God gives a compliment, it is 100% authentic. He says it with complete knowledge. Does that make sense? Yeah. We just look at some characters from the Bible who God honoured. Some of the people who God praised. Some of the people who God acknowledged what they've done is a wonderful thing. There are so many more, but we'll just focus on the four. Nathaniel, Moses, Job, and there's a woman also in the Gospel of Mark that we'll look at. From the Gospel of John, Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him and said of him, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom is no deceit." I think this is one of the greatest compliments in all of the Bible. That the Son of God himself would look at a person and then he would say to that person, "There is no deceit in you. You are 100% genuine. You are authentic." For God himself to say that about a person, it's tough to find a greater compliment, I think, than this in the Bible. It at least has to rank amongst one of the greatest compliments. That would be bizarre. If you imagine yourself, that God would look at you and say, "There is no deceit in you." You'd die a happy person, I think, if the Lord says that. And so I think this is the one thing that we can learn about the character of Nathaniel, is that he was just authentic through and through. What you see is what you get with Nathaniel. He wasn't sly. He wasn't hiding stuff. He was, what you see is what you get. And I think a practical way that we can learn from him is to take the lesson that Jesus taught us. And he taught us by saying this to the scribes and the Pharisees. "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you cleanse the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are full of extortion and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee, first cleanse the inside of the cup and dish, that the outside of them may be clean also." So it's just like you have a big dish. Like we spend a lot of the time focusing on the outside. But the Lord is saying, like, what I really am looking for is your inside to be clean. And I really believe that Nathaniel was like that. Because how could the Son of God look at a human being and say, "There is no deceit in you"? So Nathaniel was someone who concentrated on the inside. And the cool thing is, it's different to washing the dishes, because with a dish, you actually need to clean the outside and you need to clean the inside. But in the spiritual life, washing dishes is very different. You just wash the inside, and then the outside, it takes care of itself. So there's no need to try to impress people. If all we are focused on is pleasing God, everything else takes care of itself. So to start where it matters, and the Lord says inside is where it matters. This was a saying by one of the monks from the Eastern tradition in the Eastern Orthodox Church, and this is what he said. I think it's a nice quote to go after something I heard Pope Tawadros once say to a group of youth. And he basically said that one day your heart is going to be exposed before God. One day my heart is going to be exposed. And then he asked the question, what is in my heart? Like when God looks at it, what is he going to find? So this monk, he gives us very simple advice. He says, if you would be simple-hearted like the apostles, would not conceal your human shortcomings, would not pretend to be especially pious or holy. If you would walk the path free from hypocrisy, then that is the path. While it is easy, not everyone can find it or understand it. This path is the shortest way to salvation and attracts the grace of God. Unpretentiousness, that means like not acting. Guilelessness, frankness of soul. This is what is pleasing to the Lord, who is lowly of heart. Except you become like children, you shall not enter the kingdom of God. And so, one bit of advice to be like Nathaniel, we are told, is basically like this. Be simple-hearted. Don't complicate things. Like if someone didn't say hi to me, I don't need to run my mind for 3 hours after that. Why didn't they say hi to me? Simple-hearted. Doesn't matter. Like, okay, someone didn't say hi to me. Full stop. That's all that happened. They didn't say hi. Full stop. Move on with life. You know, simple-hearted like the apostles. It says, would not conceal your human shortcomings. In other words, if I have done something wrong, don't hide it. I just say I've done something wrong. And I can say sorry. I can say that to people if I've wronged a person. And of course in confession, it could be the easiest exercise in the world, confession. I just go to the priest who's representing Christ and I say, I've done so and so. I get the absolution and I walk away. That's how simple it can be. Sometimes when we sin, we think so much about it. I've sinned, I've sinned, I've sinned, I've sinned. And then we feel bad. And then we don't do the most simple thing in the world and just say, Lord, you know, in the presence of the Lord, Lord, I've done so and so. Absolution read, walk out. Never think about it again. Instead of thinking about it for 3 months, God doesn't want us to dwell on sin, just to confess it. So basically, to be honest with God is the path that is the shortest way to salvation and attracts His grace. That was Nathaniel. Nathaniel was a man who the Lord looked at and He said, you're just genuine, man. Everything about you, you are genuine. There is no deceit. The next character that we can learn from, great man of God, is Moses. So, for those who don't know, Moses had 2 siblings. Do you guys know their names? Aaron and Miriam. And this is a very interesting story. And this is what it says from the book of Numbers in chapter 12. Miriam and Aaron are not very happy with Moses. It says, then Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. So they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us also? And the Lord heard. Now the man Moses was very humble, more than all men who were on the face of the earth. Suddenly the Lord said to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, come out, you 3, to the tabernacle of meeting. So the 3 came out. Then the Lord came down in the pillar of cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both went forward. Aaron and Miriam are complaining against Moses. They feel like, why is Moses so special? If you see in verse 2, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us also? God was not happy. The Lord, it displeased him, what he was hearing. And so he calls the 3 out. Aaron, Moses, Miriam come out, and then they all go out. So they're all standing in the presence of God now, and then it continues. Then the Lord said, then he said, hear now my words. If there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, make myself known to him in a vision. I speak to him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. I speak with him face to face, even plainly and not in dark sayings. And he sees the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? I reckon if you're Moses, you feel so happy. Like, you know how these days if someone wrongs you, you try to defend yourself? Can you imagine, like, imagine you had a brother and a sister, 2 siblings, And then God calls you 3 out, and then he like leaves you, and he talks to your brother and your sister, and he starts slamming them because they spoke badly about you. And he says this sort of stuff about you. If there is a prophet among you, I make myself known to him in a vision. I speak to him in a dream, but not with Moses. He is faithful. I speak to him face to face. I would really struggle with pride if I was hearing that being said. This guy was unbelievable. And you saw in like the first part, the way that it describes who Moses was. Now the man Moses was very humble, more than all men who were on the face of the earth. And then the Lord even goes on to say, were you not scared to talk about Moses? You should fear talking about him. He's mine. God honored Moses incredibly. This is my servant. And I think this is really Moses' characteristic of, if we want honor from the Lord, then I think that humility and faithfulness is a must. And that's something that Moses had. He was very, very humble. That's something that I really liked, actually. So my mum, she's recently moved from interstate, and now she lives in Sydney. And then she came to church in Sydney. And then the first thing she realised about church was the humility that she saw. And I remember what she said. She goes, "Ya kharashi." She was like blown away. That means like, oh my goodness. I don't think there's really a translation for it, but that's the closest sort of I can come up with in a church. Right? Oh my goodness. And then she goes like, "El-Kabir يكلم على الصغير والصغير يكلم على الكبير," and she was like so happy. And what she was referring to was, she was saying the young priest talks about the old priest, in like a really positive way, and the old priest talks about the young priest in a really positive way. And she's like, "Ya kharashi," like al-hub, like the love and the humility. And that's something that really attracted her. So yeah, like if mum likes it, God loves it like even more. So this is an important question, like if we're going to walk that path, but it's a question that asks, how do you know you have the heart of a servant? You can take guesses.
Well, Abuna's a good servant, so maybe Abuna should tell us.
Okay.
No.
Selflessness would be really big in serving others.
Yeah.
Automatically putting other people before yourself.
Yeah, selflessness.
You don't know.
Huh? You don't know if you have the heart of a servant.
Only if you're picked to do the service, that's when you know God wants you to do service.
Yeah. Yeah. So like to be ready to be selfless. Selfless is a key one because we know that the greatest virtue in Christianity is, as St. Paul says, in that very famous chapter that everyone puts on their wedding invitations, 1 Corinthians 13, what is the greatest virtue in all of Christianity? Love, yeah, love. And so love, we read in that chapter, does not seek its own. So it's selfless. So that is definitely a key. This is just a cool quote that I read that I really liked in response to this question. How do you know you have a servant's heart? Look at your reaction when you are treated like one. How do you know you have a servant's heart? Look at your reaction when you are treated like one. It's very easy in the communion line to say, oh, like you go first, you go first, you go first. Because it's something that comes from ourselves, we say that. But if someone came up to me and they said, you go to the back of the communion line, what do I feel in here? Like, am I like, that's sweet, okay, I'm in trouble? And I'm like happy and like, I'm going to now go and pray for that person. And I love that person. I think really that's the way that we really know. I think it's not when we try to offer stuff necessarily of ourselves, although that is a big part of it. But if we really want to know if our heart is like one of a servant, if you're treated like a servant, how do you feel from the inside? Does it hurt? My pride is bruised. Someone told me to go to the back. Me? Yeah.
So
No.
with that, I agree with what you're saying. What if, because usually in human nature you have that initial reaction to feel like, how could you speak to me like that? And you want to respond like a prideful way. Are you still being a servant if you? Are you still being a servant if you feel it, and maybe say it in your heart and in your mind, but don't actually react to it and do as you're told. It's like you try to suppress that thought.
Yeah. I think there are levels. So like somebody, for instance, may hold their tongue, and at that moment in their spiritual journey, that's a really big achievement for them. And it's something that Pope Shenouda, the late Pope, spoke about when he mentions, like, for instance, about I think it may have been about the words or maybe purity of the thoughts, but he basically takes it by steps. So he's like, if someone says something to you and you can hold your tongue, then God will give you the grace, to then hold your thought. And then if you hold your thought, like, God will give you the grace to, like, keep your heart in that sort of effect. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of that sort of description from the Pope, but it can be like levels. Yeah. Because, it's a very difficult thing, I think, because that strikes right to the core. Like, you can't fake that. Like, no one can see that except God and you, of how you feel when you're treated like a servant. But I think it really is a good measure of the heart, if we're like that. A very simple example could be like, I've been serving in a ministry in the church, whatever it might be. I'm in the canteen or I'm in Sunday school, and then in the church, naturally there has to be order. And so maybe somebody in charge of Sunday school says, I don't want you to serve in this class, I want you to serve in this class. If I really had the heart of a servant doesn't choose what to do. That's why there's a servant and there's a master. A servant just says yes. So it's that sort of obedience, humility. Job. They say that this was the first book ever written in the whole Bible. Like, in actual date-wise. Like, it's not the first book in the Bible, but they say that Job it's the oldest or one of the oldest books in the Bible. Likely the first one that was written. What can we learn from Job? So it says, in chapter 1, verse 6 to 22. You have to bear with me, but it's such an incredible account. It says, Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. And the Lord said to Satan, From where do you come? So Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro on the earth, and from walking back and forth on it. Then the Lord said to Satan, Have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, one who fears God and shuns evil? So Satan answered the Lord and said, Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not made a hedge around him, around his household, and around all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But now stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. And the Lord said to Satan, Behold, all that he has is in your power. Only do not lay a hand on his person. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. So far, what has happened is that the Lord compliments Job. And he says, Have you not considered my servant Job? There's no one like him on the face of the earth. Upright man. No one is like Job. Satan's answer is, do you think he fears you for nothing? Do you think he serves you for no reason? Have you not made a hedge around him, around his household, and around all that he has on every side? You've blessed everything that he does. Of course he's going to serve you. You blessed him. Why would he not serve you? So then he asks permission, or he proposes that, let me touch what he has, and he will curse you to your face. Let me touch his stuff and watch what Job does. He's going to curse your face. And then the Lord gives him permission. Behold, all that he has is in your power, but don't touch him. Don't lay a hand on his person. He continues. Now there was a day when his sons and daughters, Job's sons and daughters, he had 10. He had 10 children. They were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And the messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were ploughing and the donkeys feeding beside them, when the Sabaeans raided them and took them away. Indeed, they have killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. Job's servants have been killed. It's the first thing. While he was still